Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Rock here in Pinetown. And as I said, we would start with any questions or any answers that you may have regarding what's recently happened in the Middle East. Some people know about it, and some people don't maybe care about it. And, we've all got our own opinions, and some people just don't understand it. If there's anything anybody doesn't understand, please, you can ask the question. And I will, before I start my sermon, I'll see if I can answer it. Is there anybody that has got a question? Our closing song will be... Okay, now that's fine. You know, what's happening in this world today, what is indeed happening, we find that there's evil everywhere. Evil all over the world. Evil in every country. Evil in the Middle East. The evil in the Middle East is to do with Iran, which is backing all the terrorist groups that's there. They're backing the Houthis in the Yemen. They're backing the Shiite militia, which is in the Syria and also Iraq. They're backing Hamas, which is in Gaza. They're backing Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon. And they are supplying them with guns and bombs and ammunition and total support. The Muslims are split generally. There's quite a few splits in the Muslim church religion. The splits are, the main two splits is Shiite and Sunni. Now, Iran does not call itself an Arab nation. Neither does Turkey, incidentally. But they are Muslim countries, and they're both Shiite countries. And we find Hezbollah is also Shiite. And we find that Hamas is Sunni, which is unusual. But because they're against Israel, Iran's backing them anyway. All of the splinter military groups, the militias, are Shiite. We in South Africa here, the majority of Muslims are Sunni, not Shiite. So here we find that Iran is always shouting death to Israel, death to America, death to Israel. And really, the way things are going now, it's like death to anybody else who's not one of them. And that's the problem. And I want to look this morning, and I'll look briefly at why this is. Why is it happening? And is it scriptural? And the answer to that is yes. Iran is getting closer to Russia within the last 24 hours, literally. Russia has given it a massive load of weaponry and a massive load of technology on the weaponry. Iran's been supplying Russia with drones, and they've been using them quite successfully. And we find Turkey is now also, Tayyip Erdogan is also now getting involved. And he said that if Israel, the IDF, go into Iran, he will put his Turkish troops into Jerusalem. He's always wanted to do that because he wants to try and revive, just as Vladimir Putin wants to revive the Soviet Union. Tayyip Erdogan wants to revive the Ottoman Empire, which was defeated in 1914 when the British moved into Jerusalem and took him out. But something strange happened, and I want to read to you from the book of Ezekiel initially. Now, I want to explain that Ezekiel's war is on the lips of many people. It's on the minds of many people. It's on my mind as well. what we're seeing now is not the Ezekiel war. This is the build-up or the catalyst that's leading up to that particular war. But for the first time, I'm going to read you from Ezekiel 38. The word of Adonai, and by the way, I'm reading it from the complete Jewish Bible. The word of Adonai came to me, human being, turn your face towards Gog and the land of Magog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Say that Adonai Elohim says, I am against you, Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with all your army horses and horsemen, all completely equipped, a great horde with breastplates and shields, all wielding swords. Paraz, Ethiopia, and Put are with them, all with breastplates and helmets. Gomer and its troops, the house of Togarmah as well, and its far reaches to the north, and with all of its troops. Many people are with you. Prepare yourself, get ready, you and all your crowd gathered around you. You take charge of them after many days. After many days literally means here at the end times. And at the end times it's going to happen. This is talking about the Ezekiel war. After many days past, you will be mustered for service, and later you will invade this land, which has been brought back from the sword, gathered out of many people. That's the Aliyah. That's the Jewish people coming back into Israel. They have been gathered out of the Aliyah, out of many peoples. The mountain of Israel. They had been lying in ruins for a long time. Remember about the dry bones, and God says to Ezekiel, can these bones live? And Ezekiel gave a very wise answer. He says, oh, only you know that, Lord. I don't. And which was true. And then God started to bring the bones back to life again. He joined them with sinews. He joined them all together. And then he breathed his spirit in them. But now Israel has been extracted from the peoples, and all of them are living securely. Israel was secure. When I was there, it was a lovely place to walk around. It was secure right along the border, right along. They've had a fence up, but the fence, you probably saw the fence on television. It wasn't a huge fence, but it was enough to separate them. Now Israel has been extracted from these people, and they're living securely. You will come up like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land, you and all your troops, and many people with you. Adonai Elohim, when that day comes, thoughts all well up in your mind, and you will devise a sinister scheme. You will say, I'm going to invade the land of unwalled villages. I will take by surprise. Did you notice how surprised the Israelites were when October the 7th took place? These people who are at peace, living securely in all places without walls, I will seize the spoil and take the plunder. You will attack the former ruins that are now habited and come against the people gathered from the nations. So have acquired livestock and other wealth and are living in the central parts of the land. And all of the leading merchants of Tarshish will ask you, have you come here to spoil? Have you assembled your hordes to loot, to carry off silver, gold, livestock, and other wealth? And they also took people, and they took hostages. And this was prophesied in the Bible, and this is what actually took place. But the complete war of Ezekiel 38 is not happened yet. This is the build-up to it, and it's getting very, very, very close to it. But we do have a couple of clues in verse 8. He says that on verse 8, prepare yourself and get ready, you and all your crowd gathered around you, and take charge of them. After many days, that's the long time, after many days have passed, you will be mustered for service in later years. That's the end times. So we've got a clue that although this was prophesied by Ezekiel, it's only going to happen at the end of the time. That's when it's going to take place. The nations that he mentioned, Peraz, Tuval, Gomer, all of these nations, they knew who they were at that time. I know who they are today, but I'm not going to go into them now. I'm not going to open them up and explain them to you, because that's going to be for another day, because that's when we will see Ezekiel's war. I'm going to take one, and one is called Peraz. And Peraz is a country that is, well, verse 5 talks about Peraz. Peraz, Ethiopia, and Put. Peraz was a nation. It hasn't changed its culture in about 2,500 years. And the other nations are from Asia Minor, Africa. But Peraz is far away to the east. In fact, it's 2,310 kilometers to the east of Israel. So this country has played a very good role with the Jews. It changed its name from Arya and to Peraz in the Hebrew scriptures. It's called Perez in Greek. It's called Persia in Latin. And now it's called Iran. We look and we see that there's a man who was in charge of the Persians, and he was a great leader, and his name was Cyrus the Great. But his name in Hebrew is Koresh. We all know some people from Persia, from Iran, the three wise men. They came from the east, and when they were captured, when the Daniel and Ezekiel were captured, they were taken to Babylon. And from Babylon, they were defeated by the Medes and the Persians together. It was called Persia up until 1930. Then it was called Iran. And when Israel came back into the world, in other words, when it became a nation in 1947, Iran was not the enemy of Israel. In fact, it was the second country to recognize Israel. They worked together hand in hand. They actually traded together. They actually made weapons together. Iran sold oil to Israel. There wasn't a problem up until 1979. And then there was an Iranian revolution, and the Shah of Persia, the Shah of Persia was taken out, and he was replaced by the Ayatollah Khomeini. Then October the 7th happened. Who's behind it? Iran was behind it. And the main general for the Yunus Khan brigade, Mohammad Zedi, was taken out while he was in Syria. He was killed by the Israel struck and killed him at that meeting. He was at a meeting to show how they're going to invade Israel. Iran vowed vengeance. So October the 7th started, and it really hasn't stopped. Now the War of Ezekiel has not started yet. But it's the first time ever that Iran has struck Israel. And they usually use their proxies like the Houthis in Yemen, like the Hezbollah that are in Lebanon, like the Hamas that are in Gaza, and the Holy Jihad, also in the Gaza and in Israel as well. They've used their proxies. They haven't struck themselves until April the 14th. On April the 14th this year, 2024, they fired over 300 rockets into Israel. Out of those 300 rockets, 99% of them didn't make it across. They were shot down by the Americans and by the British. They were shot down by the Israelites. They were shot down, indeed, by Saudi Arabia, and Jordan even shot one of them down as well. It's the first time ever that any of those nations that I called out, Tuval, Gomer, Put, it's the first time any of those nations attacked Israel was on the 14th of April. Was it prophetic? Yes. Was it biblical? Yes, it was. Now I want to dig a little bit deeper, and I want to go to Daniel. Now Daniel was taken in a place and taken to Belshazzar's court, and in that court he wouldn't give in. He wouldn't give in to what the Babylonians at that time wanted him to do. So he prayed and he prayed and he prayed. And in Daniel chapter 10, we find there that, I'll read it to you. Daniel chapter 10, he said, in the 3rd year of Koresh, king of Persia, Koresh, as I've said earlier, means Cyrus, who was actually very good, because he let them go and build the temple. Koresh, king of Persia, a word was revealed to Daniel. Daniel was called Belteshazzar. They changed the names of the Hebrews when they went over into the Babylon. The word was certain, a great war. He understood the word, having gained understanding in the vision. At that time, I, Daniel, had mourning for 3 whole weeks. I hadn't eaten any food that satisfied me. Neither meat nor wine had entered my mouth, and I didn't anoint myself once until 3 full weeks had passed. Daniel understood what it meant. He understood that there was going to be an attack. He didn't know when there was going to be an attack, but he was there, and he was very much aware of what was going on. On the 24th day of the 1st month, I was on the bank of the great river, the Tigris, and when I looked up, there before me was a man dressed in linen, wearing a belt made of Uphaz gold. His body was like beryl. His face looked like lightning, and his eyes like fiery torches, and his arms and feet were the color of burnished bronze. And when he spoke, it sounded like the roar of a crowd. Only I, Daniel, saw this vision. The men who were with me, they did not see it. Thus I was left alone. And when I saw this great vision, there was no strength left in me. And my face, normally pleasant, pretty much like me, face normally pleasant, became disfigured. And I had no strength. I heard his voice speaking, and when I heard him speaking, I fell down as a faint, with my face to the ground. Then a hand touched me and raised me up with my hands and to my knees. He said to me, Daniel, you are greatly loved man. Now pay attention to the words I'm saying to you and stand upright, for it is to you that I have been sent to. After he had said this to me, I stood up trembling. Then he said to me, don't be afraid. How many times did Jesus say that? Don't be afraid, Daniel, because since the first day that you determined to understand and to humble yourself before God, your words have been heard. Isn't it amazing that we think our prayers are not being heard, not being listened to? But this angel says that from the start, you've been listened to, you have been heard, and I have come because of what you said. The prince of the kingdom of Persia, or should it be the Tsars of the Mahut of Parsa, which is in Hebrew, prevented me for 21 days. In other words, the prince of the kingdom of Persia. I'm not talking about Cyrus. I'm not talking about Koresh. I'm talking about a demon. It's because the demon is in the realm of the spiritual. It's a demonic realm, and that's what's causing the trouble on this earth today. So we've got to know, when those people were attacked on October the 7th, it was demonic. It wasn't something that a human would normally do. It was demonic. He was delayed for 21 days, but Michael, that's Michael, of the kingdom, one of the chief princes, he was an archangel, came to assist me. So I was no longer needed there with the king of Persia. So I've come to make you understand what will happen to your people in the last days, for there is still another vision which will relate to those days. And after he had said these things to me, I looked down at the ground and I couldn't speak. Then someone who looked like a human being touched my lips, and then I could open my mouth, and I spoke, and I said to the one standing in front of me, my Lord, is it because of the vision that I am seized with such anguish? I don't have any strength. For how can the servant of my Lord speak with the Lord when my strength and breath have failed me? Then again, someone who looked like a human touched me and revived me. And he said, you man so greatly loved, don't be afraid. Shalom to you, and be strong. Yes, truly strong. Speaking to me gave me strength, and said, my Lord, keep speaking because you've given me strength. Then he said, do you know why I've come to you? Although now I must return to fight the prince of Persia. That's the Tsar. Tsars in Hebrew means prince. Jesus Christ is the Prince of Peace, Sar Shalom. That's what Jesus Christ is called, Sar Shalom, the Prince of Peace. When you're praying for the peace of Israel, what we're actually praying for, or the peace of Jerusalem, what we're praying for is that the Sar Shalom will come back again. Okay, we're not just literally just praying for peace. We're praying that the Prince of Peace will come back again. Although now I must return to fight the Prince of Persia. And when I leave, the Prince of Greece will come. All right, let me explain that. When I leave, after I'm going to go and fight the Prince of Persia, the Prince of Greece is going to come. What does that mean? It means that the Persians were defeated by the Greeks immediately afterwards. It was Alexander the Great. And after Alexander the Great, the Greeks then were defeated by the Romans, and that's how it was built up. This was a demonic attack, and if we want to go, I just want to take it a little bit deeper and go to chapter 12 and read you 4 verses. When that time comes, Michael, the great prince, who champions your people. Now listen, this is important because this includes us. When this time comes, Michael, the great prince who champions your people, Daniel, your people, will stand up there and will be a time of distress unparalleled between the time they became a nation and that moment. At that time, your people will be delivered. Everyone whose name is found written in the book, which is the book of life. Many of those sleeping in the dust, dead people of the earth, will awaken, some to everlasting life and some to everlasting shame and abhorrence. But those who can discern will shine like the righteous of heaven, like that dome that shines brightly. And those who turn many to righteousness, they'll be like the stars forever and ever. But you, Daniel, keep these words and seal them up. They were sealed up until the book of Revelation. And then we see the seals being unbroken. What he says is that your people will be delivered. Your people will be taken out. Your people will be saved. Who is his people? His people were the Jewish people. His people was Israel. Israel, we are part of Israel. Why? Because of the grafting in. We have been grafted in. If you read the book of John, you'll see how we have been grafted in to not just to the nation of Israel, but to the root of the nation of Israel. And the root of the nation of Israel is God Almighty. So we are going to be saved out of it completely. Now, you see, behind Iran is the Tsar Peraz, which is the demon. It also means ruler, or it means like a general, or it means the guy who calls the shots. Israel, behind Israel, well, what do we expect there? Israel's on the earth, but it's the spiritual realm that determines the earthly realm. About 1,000 years ago, Michael's appearance is in the book of Revelation, Revelation 12, verse 7 to 12. I'm going to read it, and you're going to see. So we're going to tie up the Tsar of Peraz, of Persia, and we're going to see who he's connected with. Revelation chapter 12, and we're looking at verse 7 to 12. Well, I'll read from verse 5. She gave birth to a son, a male child. The Roman Catholic Church believe that's Mary, Jesus' mother. It refers to Israel. The one who will rule all the nations with a staff of iron. But her child was snatched up to God and his throne. And she fled into the desert. That's where the Jews, that's where anti-Semitism comes in. They're in the desert at the moment. Where she has a place prepared by God so that she can be taken care of for 1,260 days. This is during the tribulation. Next, there was a battle in heaven. Right, so after 3.5 years, next there's a battle in heaven. Michael, and his angels fought against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought back. The dragon, we know, is Satan. And Satan is in charge of the demons. So Satan was in charge of that guy, Tsar Peraz, the demon of Persia. Now, this is many, many thousands of years later. And what we've got to understand is that you cannot kill a spirit like that. Only God at the end of judgment will be able to do that. But the spirit has to come back. And what brought it back again was when Israel became a nation. And then there was the Iranian Revolution. And that's when everything came back. And that spirit just was revoked again. But it was not strong enough. This is the dragon. It was not strong enough to win, so that there was no longer any place for them in heaven. That's the dragon and his fallen angels. The great dragon was thrown out, but that ancient serpent, also known as the devil and Satan, the adversary, the deceiver of the whole world. He deceives the whole world. How does he deceive the whole world? You see, when we're talking like this, we're talking about a spirit world that's being deceived. We're talking that's deceiving the people on the earth. I've got a copy of the Quran here with me, and I just want to see if I can find Surah 3, verse 45. And this is about, in the Quran, Jesus is called Isa, I-S-A. And here we see in their book, this is how they have been deceived as well. When the angel said, "O Miriam, surely Allah gives you good news with a word from him of one whose name is the Messiah, Isa, son of Miriam." So they also believe that the Jesus is going to come back. And he's going to come back with another guy called Magda. And they together will rule the world. We know that's a lie. But Satan is the father of lies. And we've got to understand that people are being confused. People are being... they're falling for this deception, just the way Eve fell for deception. Behind October the 7th was Hamas. Behind Hamas was the demon Peraz. Behind that demon was the dragon Satan himself. Behind Israel was the angel Michael. Behind Michael was the Messiah, and behind the Messiah is the Ancient of Days. We find this in the book of Daniel. God, the Holy One of Israel. It tells us a good deal. It tells us that God's words are true. It tells us that the warfare in the spiritual realm is still going on, because the tribulation has not started yet. It tells us who will win and who will be delivered, you and me, because we've been grafted in. Getting up to date, who was it that was killed in Beirut? In Beirut in Lebanon, a man called Fouad Shukr. He was the head of operations of Hezbollah. He was the man that shot that rocket that killed those 12 innocent children that was on the Golan Heights. So he was the guy. Israel went all the way into Beirut, and they took him out with a drone. At first, all the media said that he had escaped. Some of the information I got was that he died in hospital. And the truth being known now, he died in hospital. The other guy that was taken out in Tehran. Now, in Tehran, it's a capital city of Iran. So the security there, you would think, would be very, very good. But he was taken out. His name was Ismail Haniyeh. And he was the leader of Hamas's political division. And he was killed by a rocket, but not from the sky. He was killed from a rocket that was on the ground. So it was an internal job. And I was listening to this morning, I had the television on very early. I was up at 3 o'clock this morning. I couldn't sleep. And I had the television on very early. And I seen going through the streets of London, the Muslim community with long sticks shouting Allah Akbar, which means God is great. And they're going through with long sticks, beating who they can. We see that there's a lot of trouble in England, a lot of trouble in the UK, a lot of trouble in Germany. France has got is big time trouble. So this demonic person is moving his way all around the place. But what made me laugh was at the very end, the head of Iran, who's just been put in place as the president, because the former president his helicopter accidentally crashed. This guy said, we will avenge, we will come back, we will hit Israel. So Israel is going to take a pounding. It really is. There's going to be a reprisal. So far, there's not. They're having 3 days of mourning. But he said that he would, first of all, he wants to find out who did the murder of Ishmael Haniah. In other words, who was it that could get into the palace? Who was it that could get close enough to fire a rocket to take this guy out? And the reason he's saying that is because he wants to be able to sleep in his bedroom at night without too much worries. He said, so we'll wait until they do their investigation. That first they said he was taken out with a drone. Then they said he was taken out by a missile. Now they've said he's been taken out by a missile, but it's a handheld, like an anti-tank gun. And that's what's happened. And that's what's going to take place. And that's what the Bible has predicted all those years ago. And we are now living in those times. And we will be living in those times until we are taken out of them. But we will be taken out of them. We will be delivered. We will be protected. And the evil that we see, the evil from stealing cars, the evil to stabbing children in a little ballet school dance, the evil of the shooting of people in France, the evil of in America, where people are just being killed left, right, and center. This is all being governed by this demon, and this is going to happen on this earth. So my advice is keep praying, because as I was reading this morning, I was reading The Friends of the Rock, and on it we could see where the Jehoshaphat and his army were going to be wiped out, but because they were praising God and they had their eyes shut and they were praising God, and all these guys wanted to kill them, and they were praising God and singing to the tops of their voices, and when they opened their eyes, the whole army was dead. The reason being, they turned against themselves. God said, I'm going to do it. God says, I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to give you the time when I'm going to do it, but I will do it. And we just thank that we are part of the living God. Amen. Thank you.